Rich Arriaga. Today I'm going to cover Chapter 2 from the 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth by John Maxwell. As a reminder, I like to use the acronym SOAP, SOAP, and the S is for what do we study? Today we're studying the law of awareness. You can use this acronym, for example, if you were reading a particular paragraph, studying a paragraph, reading a statement, or if you're listening to a podcast or somebody lecture and they say something that resonates with you. The O is for observation. So anywhere between one and three things that you took away from the material, how did it speak to you? How did it resonate with you? And the material, the observations can be direct or indirect. So direct means that I read the material and this is how this section, this line, this word spoke to me. Or it can be indirect where reading the section made me think about something completely different. But because of this section, because of the atmosphere that we're creating, which is a creative environment, or because of something that someone said, it made me think of, it made me feel an emotion, and that's what I want to talk about. And those takeaways are important, especially the ones that are indirect, because I think that's the what I call the spiritual intuition that's kind of guiding you, directing you. A is the application, and the purpose of the application is really to reinforce what you learn so it can become memorized. The difference between learning and memory, neurologically speaking, is when you're learning something, you're forming new neurological connections. But within a short amount of time, relative short amount of time, those new connections start to prune away. And so if you want to retain what you're learning, applying it is one way of doing it. So ask yourself, how can I apply what I'm learning, whether one, two, or three of your observations within the next 24 to 48 hours? And then P, pass it forward. I do believe that we're all very fortunate to be in the situations that we are in. They may not be ideal, but they certainly can be worse. And so, relatively speaking, we can be very fortunate, appreciative, and kind of show some gratitude. And one way I like to reinforce that is ask yourself, who do I know of that can benefit from this material? Who can I share this material with? And it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to sit in front of a monitor and you're going to read the material to them, but based on your takeaway, can you explain this to them? Can you share your knowledge with them? Knowledge transfer. And this way, it helps me with my mission statement, my vision, my purpose, which is a better world through better leadership. And so, okay, so we'll go to, if you have the PDF copy, we're going to move to page 34, which is my first observation. So again, this is the law of awareness. You must know yourself to grow yourself. And so my first takeaway is on page 34. And so again, the title of the chapter is Increasing Your Awareness. And so in my life, increasing my awareness has helped me immensely. It forced me to ask questions such as, what are my strengths? What am I good at? What are my weaknesses? What are my good habits? What are my bad habits? And what are my blind spots? And those blind spots could be some behaviors that are costing me, some paradigms, some things that I do that I'm not even aware of, that are costing me significantly. And I'll give you two specific examples and tell you how they hurt me. I'm an introvert, and so when I'm in a meeting and people are tossing out their ideas and they're extroverts, that drains my energy. It's really hard for me to concentrate. So in order for me to focus on the topic and try to come up with my ideas, a solution to the problem that's being presented, I will cross my arms, helps me think. And from a neurological perspective, they say when you cross your arms, you're engaging both sides of your brain. And I will also kind of concentrate. So that's how I think. That's really how I can get centered, be more present, and focus on what's being presented. Now, an extrovert or somebody who's looking at me will look at that behavior and see this. And what does that look like? What is the message that innocently you're sending out? or somebody's interpreting. It looks like Rich doesn't want to be here. He's not engaged. He's angry. He's upset. He's really doesn't like to play in the sandbox with everybody else. And so I would have wished, I would have hoped that some of my peers, some of my managers would have told me about the appearance of that behavior. It's a subconscious behavior. I'm not aware of it, but nobody ever told me. And the main way that I've discovered that is by looking at the monitors, looking at when we're recording sessions and looking at that and seeing it, and it's like, oh my gosh, look at that. And so it's easy for me to blame other people and say, well, they never told me. They didn't care about me. And that might be true. But you know what else might be true? What might be true is that that message alone, or at least that behavior, sends a message that I don't want to be coached, that I don't want to be have feedback. And it's also possible that I did create the feedback by being easily offended, being defensive when somebody did try to give me feedback in other areas. So it doesn't matter why it wasn't told to me. What matters now is, now that I've increased my level of awareness, I need to change the behavior. I need to take action. And so now when I sit in meetings, if I am conscious that I see myself crossing my arms, because I constantly have to remind myself, I uncross them. I may do this. Looks like I'm thinking. I may have a little bit of a smile every once in a while, so it looks like I'm more friendly. I'm more engaged. So it's not a fake smile, but it's just a reminder, Rich, you need to smile a little more often. You need to not cross your arms as often. Some people, I'll see that they cross their arms, and there's a more natural way of doing it where their arms are crossed, but they're more open, where mine are tightly closed. So maybe cross your arms, but not so tight, maybe a little looser. So that's one thing that's cost me developmental opportunities, could have cost me jobs, could have cost me promotions. So that's one takeaway of increasing your level of awareness. The second takeaway is on page 36. And so what I took from reading that whole section above is, you want to develop a burning desire, and you do want to burn bridges. You want to burn any bridge, every bridge, any ship, every ship that's associated with fear and limited thinking. Anything that holds you back, anything that keeps you back, anything that keeps you comfortable, because your growth, especially your most important growth, occurs outside of your comfort zone. So you have to get used to being uncomfortable. Be comfortable being uncomfortable. And it doesn't have to, you don't have to take some large steps. You can take some baby steps. But the point is that your growth really is up to you. It's not up to anyone else. Now, having said that, you have to realize that as you progress in your career, whether it's personal or professional, you can't do it alone. You have to do it with other people. You have to bring other people along, and you have to have them sometimes borrow their faith in order for you to grow. So it's important to you to recognize that this is kind of a community effort. Your career is still up to you. You're accountable for your decisions and for your own career growth, but recognize that you have to be willing to work with other people, work with peers, develop a good network, develop friends who are going to coach, who are mentor, that give you feedback, and you give them honest and sincere feedback to help them grow. So the other question that I learned in terms of my awareness is, I no longer ask myself when it comes to making a decision is whether this decision is good or bad, or whether it's right or wrong. Now, I'm giving this in context of, here I am, and this is where I want to be in terms of my goals and my desires. So I have a desired future state. That's where I want to go. And so as I'm developing my plan, and sometimes my plan is a one-step plan. And that plan is, or that step is, what is the next best step? And when I get there, then I ask the same question again. But the question I ask now is, will this decision improve the quality of my life? Will this decision move me in the direction of my goals, of my desire? Will this decision lead to expansion? The opposite is This decision could be limiting. This decision will hold me back. This decision will move me away from my goal, away from my desired future state. This decision could lead to contraction. So I treat it as a binary situation. There's no neutrality here. And based on the answer to those questions, that's how I decide. Now, having the answer to that question does not mean that I have the answer on whether it's going to be easy or difficult, whether I know how to do it or not. I may not know that. I may have to develop some skills. I may need to take somebody on, hire somebody, bring somebody new to the organization or to my organization. But at least I know this next step, the wisest next step, the best next step is to do X. And I do it. The reason I don't ask those other questions is there is a law of opposites, the law of polarity. And it says, for example, where if it's really bad, if you look at the situation carefully, then there's something equally really good. If you say it's really right, then if you look at it carefully, then there's something equally really right. So that's why those questions, they didn't serve me. They were not helping me. So again, it's like we're not talking necessarily, about moral types of issues. It doesn't mean that you give up your values, your moral or your ethics. And we're talking about decisions that are related to you making the next step, the next plan with regard to your personal growth, with regard to your desired future state. And then my last takeaway is on page 38. And so he's talking about, do you know the difference between what you want and what you're good at? And I always say, the most difficult question people will be asked, hopefully they are asked this question, but the most difficult question to answer is, what do you want? What do you really want? Because most people will answer that question with what they think they can have, what they think they're worthy of, as opposed to, what do I really want? And that's a question you should be asking yourself. You should be grateful for what you do have, but you should never be satisfied with what you do have. And the reason I say you shouldn't be satisfied is because you have a spirit inside of you, at least I believe you have a spirit inside of you, that's always looking for its fullest expression, fullest expansion, and that's why you always have those urges of wanting more. So wanting more doesn't make you a bad person. Wanting more just simply means that you're capable of being the greatest version of you. You don't want to be somebody else. You just want to be the greatest version of yourself. So I give the example of American Idol. If you're in the United States and if you've ever watched it, and if not in the US, I'm sure you might have something similar in your country. But American Idol basically are these people who want to be a singer. They want to be famous. And so it's pretty funny sometimes where they will interview somebody and they'll say, for example, hey, Rich, do you think you can be the next American Idol? And so I'm trying to be a contestant on the show. And so I'll speak with confidence on the outside. Now, I don't know what they're thinking on the inside, but on the outside, absolutely, yes, I know I'm going. Not only do I know I can be, I know I'm going to be. And next thing, they show the video with the person singing, and the person cannot sing at all. This is not like they're kind of good and with a little more practice. No, this is a person who would sing like me. You would never want to hear me sing. One thing that I can probably say confidently is that I can bring tears to your eyes if I sing. That's the type of singing that I'm talking about. They should not be on stage. So their friends, their families, they've been lying to them. Now, maybe that person created a situation where you couldn't tell them the truth. And now they find themselves wasting weeks, months, or years on a path they shouldn't have been on. So with them in mind, they were looking for a goal that was unrealistic. But I do want to be careful because in this section, I do believe you can be unrealistic with your goals. I don't think you should limit yourself to being realistic. I think you can and should have unrealistic goals. So I give an example where you have Elon Musk with his ideas about traveling to Mars. We recently had the helicopter on Mars. Now, when you think about that, that's unrealistic. Not most of us never would have thought of that. And if we would have heard somebody talk about that before it actually happened, we would have said, well, that's unrealistic. When you think about Nikola Tesla and his inventions with electricity, Steve Jobs, Jeff Bezos, the things that they've come up with, the ideas and how they've benefited many people. Now, we may not always agree, and the point is not to agree with their politics or where they're coming from. The point is that for you, the individual, you too have the ability to dream big. And I believe that if you have, like Napoleon Hill says in his book, whatever you conceive, and if you believe it in your heart, you can achieve it. Doesn't mean that it'll be easy, doesn't mean that it will be difficult, but I believe that if you conceive that thought, then you already have everything inside of you that's necessary to have it manifest. Now, you have to develop those skills. You may not be aware of all the things that you have, but that's my personal and strong belief. And so to my point here is, but there is a science of how to do this. So there's a science around how you can be what you want to be, do what you want to do, have what you want to have, give what you want to have around those desires. So we can all do great things that can have a great impact on humanity, and we can be better when we create and collaborate. So again, reinforcing that we need to work with people, different sexes, different cultures, different genders, different, marginalized groups. Everybody has value to add. And then you want to know your why. Why is it that I'm doing what I'm doing? Why is this important? So this goes around your purpose and vision. Now, for some people, they're so lucky and blessed that they've discovered their purpose and vision when they were 5 years old or 6 years old. It took me over 50 years to develop my purpose. So now my purpose is a better world through better leadership. And my vision is just that, just seeing all folks, different leaders, and I don't mean official political voted leaders. I mean you as a leader. It doesn't matter whether you have an official title, it doesn't matter whether you're leading a team, you're leading yourself and you're influencing other people, whether you know it or not. Somebody may be looking up to you, your child, your daughter, your son, somebody who just is in your vicinity and they like the way you speak, they like your values. So that's what I mean by leadership. Everyone is a leader. Doesn't mean everyone's a good leader, but everyone is a leader because they have the ability to influence other people. So then I end up with a reminder that living a life of intentionality, living a life that is on purpose, living in life with purpose, with integrity, with congruency, allows you to be who you want to be, allows you to do what you want to do, allows you to have what you want to have, and allows you to give to whom you want to give in the proportions that you want to give. And that could be of time, of resources, of money, of whatever it is. So you do have a strong ability of impacting the world. You might impact one person who impacts the world, but you yourself have the ability to impact the world. So those are my takeaways from this chapter. We're going to end it right here, and now you can have a discussion around your takeaways and share it with the group. Thanks again, Rich Arriaga.